There, if 100,000 people gathered in Toronto along Yonge Street for a Coldplay concert, it'd be front page news. And if 100,000 lined the streets for a Toronto Raptors victory celebration, it would be wall-to-wall coverage. But more than 100,000 Iranians rallying for freedom, that somehow becomes a footnote? Something unprecedented took place with Iranians yesterday in Toronto, but where was most of the Canadian media? Let's start with Pride. It's hard to fully express what it felt like yesterday in the middle of devastating days as we hear about massacre and arrests and bloodshed inside Iran, to see more than 100,000 Iranian Canadians show up in solidarity in Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto, in the cold, in the snow, in miserable conditions, families, elders, young people, no spectacle, no celebrity headliners, just solidarity. Something unprecedented took place yesterday in Toronto, but other than a couple of reports, where was the Canadian media? Iranians around the world saw it instantly, as many of you know following along on social media, but Canada's mainstream media and even the local Toronto media barely showed up. And when it did, it tended to downsize the story. Let's be honest about what that tells us. A crowd of this size, emotionally unified, politically clear, openly calling for the end of the Islamic Republic, doesn't always map cleanly onto the editorial frames Canadian newsrooms are used to working with. It doesn't fit a neat template. It doesn't come with safe and easy sound bites. So it can get reduced and softened and treated as routine, like we've seen these protests before. But nothing about yesterday was routine. And here's why that matters. Canada has long been criticized, including by academics and journalists and human rights organizations, for being a soft landing place, a safe haven for members of the Islamic Republic's elite and their families. That context matters because understanding Iran isn't just a foreign policy question, it's a domestic one too. When media underplays moments like this, it underestimates the power of a community that is awake and mobilized and increasingly unified with a clear message that deserves to be heard in a country still reckoning with its own relationship to the Islamic Republic regime. What we saw yesterday was not noise, it was signal, a diaspora that understands the stakes, a community that keeps showing up even when the cameras don't. History doesn't wait for the headlines. But when people in the thousands stand visibly in front of you in an epic display, that is news, and it deserves to be noticed.